Hello there. I feel like filming on my phone microphone is becoming a regular enough of an occurrence that it might actually be worth it for me to invest in an actual Bluetooth microphone at some point, but for now, hello, welcome to another video. It is the 21st of March, which is incredibly exciting because it is officially the first day of spring. And I know it will depend on what area you're in, whether or not it actually feels like spring. He has been feeling like spring for a couple of weeks, but it is now officially the first day of spring, so we can enjoy it. I've been hinting to this in a couple of my previous videos, but I want to work on my spring book. I want to work on Project Voice. I will probably tell you a bit more about Project Voice when it's a little bit quieter because the ducks are making the loudest racket at the minute. But they're being very cute, so it's okay. Did I even hit record? Yeah, so we're starting this new project today. It's not technically 100% new, because I have written the first act of it before, but I think it needs a massive overhaul, and we're basically going to take the same idea and start again. But it's such a gorgeous, beautiful day today. It's the first day of spring, so I just had to do my writing today outdoors. That's the rules, right? First day of spring, you gotta write outside. Maybe. So yeah, I was gonna go sit somewhere a bit more comfortable, but actually I am completely comfortable over here, so I might just grab my laptop and we might just stay here. Again, I'll talk to you about what I'm doing a little bit more in depth at home, but I think I'm gonna start my reread of my last attempt at this project, and then we'll get into what I'm doing, what I'm working on. So as promised, I feel like it's about time that I fill you in on Project Voice, or my spring book as I sometimes call it. This is technically not a brand new project. I have worked on it before. It's a project that I've used a couple of times as a palette cleanser project between drafts of my main trilogy, Project Sight. So I have been working on it technically for a couple of years, but it's always been very much background work. I've sort of worked on it for a week or two here and there in between other things, and then I always go back to Project Sight. So even if it's been in the works for a long time, it still feels very early stages to me. There's still a lot of brainstorming to be done. I have some things that are there, but I also don't really have a plot line. Like, it's very much an early stage project. As I mentioned this morning, I did try and draft it previously, but that was a while ago, and I didn't really have even nearly as much brainstorming and plotting done before I started drafting, so I made it through Act 1, and I think that was a really useful draft in developing some of the characters and some of the world, but I think I need to start again, effectively. But I went through and did the reread for that this morning. I read about half of it at the forest and then the other half at my desk just now. I'm actually so happy. The story needs work, like the actual what's happening needs a lot of work, but I really like the voice. Like, it's very sweet, it feels very cozy and like middle grade-y. I think it's just really fun. I really like my main character, and I'm really excited to just have another stab at this and write it better but with the same voice. So, what is Project Voice, you might be asking? Project Voice is a middle grade cozy witchy book. It is a group of children, a group of young girls going into magic school for the very first time, and they are adorable. They are all 12, I think, or 11. My main character, Olympia, is a deaf-mute witch who can't use spells because she can't say the spells out loud, but she still goes to magic school because she wants to study herbology and just generally get an understanding of like the culture of magic and just know about magic. Even if she can't do any herself, she finds magic really enjoyable to be around, and she's a very positive person, so she doesn't feel sad to be around something that she can't do herself. She just wants to be a part of it in whatever way she can be. And then she shares a room with 3 other witches, the first of which is Morgan, who is a trans witch. She is a little bit older than the other girls, and she also doesn't know her magic specialization yet because she found out that she was a witch a little bit later. But I love her so much. She is so fun. She feels very much like she's always trying to prove herself, and she's like a little bit competitive, but she's also really sweet, and she's really nice to Olympia, and I love her. Then we've got Hazel, who is a herbologist by choice. She's been into herbology since she was really young, so while Olympia hasn't really done magic before she goes into magic school, Hazel is already a really skilled herbologist from day one. I sort of, while I was rereading this draft, realized that she's kind of autistic coded to me. I don't think that was an on-purpose decision at the time, but I'm very strongly considering actually making her autistic. I think it fits her really well. And yeah, herbology would be her special interest, and she's really interested in plants, and she only really wants to talk about plants. And originally she wants to be friends with Olympia because Olympia's also a herbologist, but she very quickly loses interest because Olympia's not actually any good at herbology, as it turns out. And then my last character is Ember, who is an elemental witch. She can control all 4 elements, but fire is her favorite one. Which is going to be particularly fun because Olympia's scared of fire for reasons. So I feel like they're a really fun group, and I don't really have much of a plot. I have an outline that I wrote a really long time ago, but I don't think I had all characters figured out when I wrote that outline. Some bits don't really fit that well anymore. I think I'm gonna be keeping some of the elements in that outline, but it needs a really good overhaul, especially the first act, because honestly reading this back, like, it's so slow. Like, there are no stakes for the entirety of the first act. It's just fun little girls going to a magic school and having the time of their lives. Like, nothing is happening. It's all positive. So there's a ton of work left to be done. As I said, I've reread the entire draft this morning, the entire draft being like 30 pages, but I haven't gone through my notes on Notion yet, and I think I've done multiple passes of brainstorming since I wrote this last draft, so there's a lot to wrap my head around because I haven't touched this book in a long time. But something that I really want to do is to make a brainstorming tracker sort of thing, because I still have, if I turn this around a bit, this thing, which is my tracker from my project side book, and I would like to replace it with a new tracker for my current project. So I want to make that, but I don't think I can make a tracker until I know what needs to happen. And I'm also, what's the time? It's almost 5, and I gotta leave at 6:30 today. So I don't think this is actually going to happen until tomorrow, but I think my next step in working towards Project Voice is going to be going through all of my notes on Notion, figuring out what I have and what I'm working with, and then making a list of what's missing and what I want to do, so I can make a brainstorming planner. I'm gonna include like actual things that need to be done to make the book ready to be drafted, but also I'm really excited about making some character art, making some other things. The original idea for this book actually came to me because I was just feeling a little bit unhappy with how badly my main work project site lends itself to making art. There are some elements in this book, as you might probably guess from the title, that mean that visual art is not a good medium for it. So I came up with Project Voice as this like very much vibes only to begin with, book that's very, very colorful. Lots of characters, lots of plants. It's all very much happening around nature. The visual images that I have in my head for this book are just so pretty. And I'm so excited to make some art that is based in this world. So I think I would like to add some of that to my brainstorming planner, because I feel like once I start drafting, I will very much get just like single focused minded into drafting. So we want to make some of the art beforehand so that we can build up the habit of occasionally pausing the writing to do some fun art about my writing. I think that would be great. I should probably get going, but see you tomorrow. I spent the morning working on this little tracker, and I am so happy with how cute it looks. It was so therapeutic to just work on this. It feels very much like a super low pressure art project, just filling in a bunch of black squares as neatly as possible, but it really doesn't matter if I go over the lines, which is just really nice. It's very fun to do. I picked the closest color cardboard that I had to purple because this project is very purple looking in my head. I haven't really decided because there's gonna be a lot of like herbology and like plant related things going on, and I've done like zero world building for that, but in my head they're gonna use lavender for something, and there's gonna be a lot of purple flowers specifically. I haven't decided what flowers, I haven't decided what they're for yet, but a lot of the Notion setup that I've been using for this project has been purple, and I am sticking to that. But yeah, I basically spent the morning going through the rest of my notes in Notion and just reading through what I already have, what I've been brainstorming since my last attempt at drafting, and just kind of putting together a list of things that I still don't think there is enough of. So the first item on the list is to reread my existing work, which I put down work to try and keep it short, but I did mean both the draft and the notes, which I have now done, so we will be taking that off after this. Then I've got some character profiles, which I have started on, but some of them need more work than others. They're all generally a bit unfinished. And then I've got some pet profiles, because 2 of the characters have pets, and none of them have profiles. Next up, I've got location profiles. I don't really know if that's the right word for this, but I want to research some actual locations, because this story takes place sort of like in England and Ireland, but I have some research already for some of the locations in Act 1, which are all in England. I do not have any research for the locations that we're going to be stopping in once they cross over to Ireland. I know that I want them to be in like really remote, pretty nature places, but I want to get a bit more specific than that, and there's going to be some interaction with some towns as they travel across, so I want to like figure out the route basically. And I kind of, you will see when I show you the time lapse of this, that I kind of did this in columns, but then like I switched across, so I sort of did the first 5 rows sort of together, then there's a little bit of a break that's not actually drawn out, but like in my head there's a break, and then there's another break for the last 3 rows. So skipping around a little bit on the paper, I've got magic system, and I've also got my list of classes and the material that they're gonna be learning in those classes, and the actual school system, so like outside of the classes, how does the school work, how many like years are there. I don't mention the older students even remotely in my first draft, so I'm just figuring out like who else is there, how many students are there, like what does everything look like. And then I also want to do an elevator pitch and a synopsis. I've never really done that before drafting. I don't know, I've had a lot of people say that it's useful to have those things in advance, so we want to try that this time around. And then of course an outline. I kind of need that if I want to draft the book. I say that, you don't really need that if you want to draft the book, but I think I'm at the point in my writing career where, I say career like I've published something, I have not, but I feel like these days I prefer writing from an outline, even though I didn't used to. Then the next 4 sections are sort of all research based. I want to do some, I call it herbology research, really I mean biology, but then relating it back to some of the uses of plants and also some of the mythological uses of plants, and like trying to figure out the herbology side of my magic system. And then the other three are kind of like a little bit nerve-wracking because I have basically a disabled character, deaf-mute character, I have a trans character, and I have an autistic character, and I am neither of those things. So I want to make sure I research all of those things so that I know how to write these characters. The fact that I have this many characters that are just completely out of my comfort zone, and one of them is the main character as well, makes it so that I'm a little bit unsure as to what I actually want to do with this book, because it is middle grade, so traditional publishing makes sense, but also I don't want to be taking away someone's spot that might actually have a disability or might actually be trans autistic. This is partially why this book is very self-indulgent to me and very much just like a fun little project, because I don't actually know if I want to publish it. I don't know, this might change, but it's very much something that I'm trying to, at the very least, make sure that I'm doing well, and really making these characters as realistic as possible. And the last 6 items on the list are sort of like my fun sections, quote unquote. So I've got a project journal, super excited about this. I've already bought a journal. I want to do some character art and some creature art for my pets. And I want to make a project playlist. I want to make myself a list of comp titles, not necessarily the final comp titles, but just a list of books that I think might work for comp titles so I can read them. And then the final one is read one craft book, because this has been like my yearly goal for 3 years running and I still have not accomplished it. So I am determined that we're going to read one craft book before I start drafting. Do not take me up on that. This might not happen, but it's on the list, so. I want to talk about the elephant in the room in a second, but before we do that, I kind of really want to do some gardening today, so I figured we could kind of do a 2 birds with 1 stone situation, sort of repot some plants, do a little bit of gardening, and have a writing update. How's that? So the first thing that I want to do is set up this thing. This is a sunflower bucket that I got from our local supermarket because I have absolutely zero self-control. But I'm so excited. It is adorable. It comes with like the seeds and some compost and stuff, and it's just meant to all go in this bucket. I haven't had the best luck with flowers in general. I tried planting flowers last year and I got like 1 flower and a bunch of greenery, but not much else. But this one is designed to be in this sized pot, so you would think that I might have a little bit more luck with it. So we're gonna be doing this. And then other than that, I want to take care of this jade plant situation because I think this one could do with a bigger pot. And then this one, basically I got this plant like a really long time ago, and it was back when I was in an old flat that didn't get a lot of sunlight. So the stem where the original plant was is very, very thin, but at this new location it's doing really well, so the top keeps building up. And then this has happened a few times, so like this used to have more branches going off to the sides. They get too heavy and then they break and they snap and it dies. So I want to take off some of these big heavy leaves so that it stays at a manageable weight. And while I'm taking off the leaves, we are going to be making more baby plants, basically. This is actually quite funny because this plant is clearly smaller, but this plant here is a baby of this plant. But it has way surpassed it, as you can see. So we're gonna be making more, and they're gonna be beautiful. And I'm going to slowly make a jungle of jade plants. I think these are jade plants, I'm not actually entirely sure. Yeah, so let's start by making myself a little bit of space, because dear God, I have too many things on this table. It is slowly becoming slightly unmanageable, but that's alright. Okay, sunflower bucket. So, if you've been watching any of my previous videos, you might know that I've been working on Project Side recently. And in fact, I only just started the 6th draft of Project Site in my last vlog. So why on earth are we changing projects at this point? You might be wondering. Put this here so I can read the instructions. Close enough. So I knew that I wanted to work on Project Voice pretty much since the start of the year. I finished draft 2 of the 2nd book in my trilogy, in my Project Site trilogy, back in December. So I finished draft 2 of the previous book back in December. And I knew that I really wanted to be working on Project Voice, but also this was in December, so it wasn't spring, and I thought I would just hold off for a little bit. So I kind of wanted to do something other than Project Voice, like for a short period of time, and then change to Project Voice over in March. So I considered book 3 of my trilogy, but I felt like if I did that, I would then get stuck into it and would find it very difficult to change. So book 1 was the obvious choice because in my head it only really needed a line edit. But unfortunately, when I actually started going through it, I realized that it didn't only need a line edit, it actually needed quite a lot of work, including very heavy developmental edits on Act 1. Ooh. These are so big, look at that. Eek. I still really enjoyed the process of working on that revision plan and just like figuring out the developmental edits that I wanted to do. But pretty much as soon as I started actually drafting draft 6, I just knew that my heart wasn't in it. I didn't want to be working on this project, I wanted to be working on Project Voice. So now we're working on Project Voice. Sprinkle the seeds evenly across the surface. Am I supposed to use all of them? That feels like a lot of seeds for a small bucket. And I actually was in a similar-ish situation last year where I said I wanted to work on Project Voice in spring, but I was really stuck into the 2nd book in the Project Site trilogy at that point, and I was actually, like, I basically had a long writing break at the start of last year because of some family stuff going on, and then I was halfway through that initial planning phase when that happened. So when I went back to writing, I didn't really feel like changing projects. I was still really enjoying working on Project Site, and I wanted to continue. And I think I made the right decision. I really enjoyed working on that project last year. I'm very glad to have finished it. I'm really proud of how that draft went. But I think this year, right now, switching projects is a better idea for the current situation that I'm in, and that's basically just what we're going to do. It's very unlike me to switch projects halfway through something. And the milestone for when I'm going to switch has sort of been moving a bunch, because originally I said, oh, I'll do a quick line edit of everything and then change projects. Obviously that didn't happen. But then I said, okay, I'm gonna do the developmental edits on Act 1 and then change projects. That also didn't happen. And then I said, I'm just gonna finish this one chapter and then change projects. That actually also didn't happen. I am halfway through a chapter on Project Site at the minute. But I don't care. We're switching projects anyway. And I think that when I go back to it, it's just gonna be a lot better. Like, I just know that I want to be working on my cozy spring book at the minute. So I made that revision planner this morning. I'm not necessarily sure that I'm going to be doing absolutely everything on that list before I start drafting. Some of the things on there are really just for fun, like I put down character art, but will I do character art for all of my characters or just for my main character? I'm not sure yet. It will depend on really what I feel like doing at that time. But I'm just excited to start working through that list. I'm probably going to wrap up the video for this weekend after my gardening is done, but I'm planning on basically doing some of the things on that list as vlogs and doing some of the things just off camera by myself. So if there's anything on the revision planner that was particularly interesting to you, feel free to let me know and I can decide what to film and what not to film. And generally, I just hope that you enjoy watching me work on this project just as much as I have been enjoying getting back to this project. It's been super fun already, just going back through my notes, and I think it's gonna be a really fun one.